The night swallowed the Caribbean Sea, a darkness punctuated only by the technological heartbeat of modern naval warfare. September 4th, 2025, a date that would capture the delicate tension between naval deterrence and potential global conflict. Aboard the USS Jason Dunham, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer cutting through the maritime darkness, the Combat Information Center hummed with an electric anticipation that betrayed the brewing storm just beyond visual range. The ship's AN/SPY-1D radar pulsed with methodical precision, its phased array scanning hundreds of nautical miles in milliseconds. Electronic support measures waited, sensors primed to detect the slightest anomaly in the vast dark expanse. 2 days earlier, a U.S. military strike against a suspected drug smuggling vessel had already heightened regional tensions, creating an operational environment charged with unspoken challenges and strategic calculations. The counter-narcotics mission had transformed from a routine maritime patrol into a high-stakes geopolitical chess match. Inside the CIC, crew members were silhouetted against the glow of tactical displays, their faces illuminated by the cold blue light of advanced tracking systems. Commanding officers and tactical action teams maintained a laser-focused awareness, each movement calculated, each breath measured. The metallic hum of advanced systems created a backdrop of technological sophistication, a symphony of sensors, communication networks, and potential defensive capabilities waiting to be activated. Years of training condensed into moments of potential action where milliseconds could separate diplomatic restraint from international incident. The USS Jason Dunham represented more than a mere naval vessel. It was a floating fortress of American maritime capability, equipped with the latest Aegis combat system, vertical launch cells filled with SM-2 missiles, and a crew trained to operate at the absolute pinnacle of modern naval warfare. Layered defensive systems stood ready. Phased array radars, electronic countermeasures, close-in weapon systems, each a testament to decades of technological innovation and strategic planning. Outside, the Caribbean waters remained deceptively calm, masking the complex technological and human drama about to unfold. The night continued its silent watch, waiting. The jets were coming. This is the true story of what happened next. A story that would reveal the complex dance of modern maritime confrontation, where technology, human judgment, and geopolitical tensions intersect at the speed of modern warfare. The night was electric with tension aboard the USS Jason Dunham, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer operating in the vast, dark expanse of the Caribbean Sea. September 4th, 2025, 2:17 local time. The maritime darkness concealed potential threats just beyond visual range. The ship's Combat Information Center, CIC, maintained a metallic controlled atmosphere, with crew members stationed at sophisticated consoles monitoring an increasingly complex operational environment. The counter-narcotics mission had already seen heightened tensions following the recent strike against a suspected drug smuggling vessel 2 days earlier. Environmental conditions added complexity. Scattered cloud cover, moderate sea state, and intermittent radar reflecting atmospheric layers that could potentially mask approaching aircraft. The AN/SPY-1D radar, a pinnacle of maritime surveillance technology, continued its methodical 360-degree electronic sweep, its phased array scanning hundreds of nautical miles with breathtaking precision. Positioning was critical. The USS Jason Dunham maintained its assigned patrol grid, balancing strategic visibility with operational security in waters that had become increasingly contested. The electronic support measures ESM stations suddenly erupted with unexpected signatures that shattered the maritime silence. 2 distinct track profiles materialized on the tactical displays, their characteristics immediately recognizable to the seasoned radar operators. These were Venezuelan F-16 fighting Falcons, their electronic emissions cutting through the night with unmistakable clarity. Link 16 data links populated the tactical picture with cold, clinical precision. 2 aircraft, bearing 047, closing at approximately 480 knots, with altitudes fluctuating between 500 and 1,500 feet. The identification friend or foe. IFF systems initiated automatic challenge sequences, probing the approaching aircraft's intent through encrypted Mode 4 and Mode 5 protocols. Each console operator knew the stakes. These weren't routine maritime transits, but a calculated demonstration of military positioning. The ship's Tactical Action Officer, TAO, studied the emerging scenario, hands hovering near communication systems, weighing each potential response. Radar cross-section measurements, electronic signature analysis, and real-time tracking converged to paint an increasingly tense operational picture. The F-16's approach violated no immediate international protocols but represented a clear message of provocation, testing the USS Jason Dunham's defensive posture and rules of engagement. The carefully maintained professional calm of the destroyer's crew transformed into a laser-focused alertness that permeated every compartment. Bridge personnel synchronized with CIC, establishing a unified operational picture that balanced defensive readiness with diplomatic restraint. Weapon systems remained powered but not armed, a deliberate choice that signaled both capability and intention to de-escalate. External cameras and electro-optical systems began comprehensive documentation, capturing every nuance of the approaching aircraft. Radio operators monitored international distress frequencies, preparing multilingual challenge protocols that could potentially interrupt the developing scenario. The ship's commanding officer reviewed tactical displays, calculating potential closure points, weapons envelopes, and the critical decision matrix that would determine the next moments. Proximity alerts began triggering with increasing frequency, each ping a digital heartbeat measuring the narrowing distance between the Venezuelan fighters and the U.S. Navy destroyer. The maritime environment, typically a realm of calculated distances and professional respect, now felt like a compressed pressure chamber ready to release its potential energy. Sensors tracked, computers calculated, and human operators maintained a razor's edge of professional composure. Then the altitudes dropped and the closure rate spiked. The USS Jason Dunham's Combat Information Center transformed into a crucible of strategic decision-making as the Venezuelan F-16s continued their provocative approach. Commanders faced a complex calculus of tactical response, international law, and immediate threat assessment. The ship's Tactical Action Officer, TAO, initiated the standard escalation protocol, systematically reviewing the rules of engagement, ROE, established for this maritime patrol mission. Operational guidelines were crystal clear: demonstrate defensive capability without triggering an international incident. The recent strike against the drug smuggling vessel 2 days earlier had already heightened regional tensions, making each decision a potential diplomatic flashpoint. Radar operators continued tracking the incoming aircraft, their screens displaying a clinical representation of potential threat vectors. The ship's communication systems remained active, ready to broadcast warnings on multiple international frequencies. Environmental factors added complexity: scattered cloud cover, moderate sea state, and the inherent challenges of maritime interdiction created a multi-layered operational environment that demanded absolute precision. Voice circuits crackled with terse, controlled communication as the bridge and CIC synchronized their response. Standard protocols dictated multiple layers of warning and deterrence before any kinetic action could be considered. The ship's executive officer began preparing standard challenge messages in both English and Spanish, designed to communicate absolute clarity without escalating the confrontation. Closest point of approach calculations ran continuously, updating in real time to provide instantaneous threat assessment. Weapon systems remained in a state of controlled readiness, powered but not armed, a deliberate signal of defensive capability without overt aggression. Link 16 tactical data systems maintained a comprehensive picture of the emerging scenario, feeding information to multiple command levels simultaneously. The ship's commanding officer reviewed each incoming data point, weighing the potential risks of response against the imperative of crew and vessel protection. Electronic warfare systems remained active, monitoring the F-16's electronic signatures, ready to implement defensive jamming or electronic countermeasures if the situation escalated. The moment demanded a delicate balance of deterrence and restraint. Radio operators prepared to broadcast on guard frequency and international air distress channels, ensuring multiple opportunities for communication and de-escalation. Helm control stood ready for evasive maneuvers, with the ship's considerable mass and technological capabilities providing multiple defensive options. The crew's training became evident in their disciplined response. Each station maintained a laser-focused awareness that translated potential threat into calculated response. Acoustic and visual tracking systems documented every moment of the approaching aircraft, creating a comprehensive record of the encounter. The unspoken understanding among the crew was clear. Prevention was the primary objective, with defensive capability as the ultimate backstop. Weapon systems remained safe, but not for long. The Venezuelan F-16s continued their approach, each nautical mile bringing the potential for a dramatic shift in the maritime confrontation. Weapons were safe, but not for long. The USS Jason Dunham's defensive posture represented a masterpiece of naval engineering, a multi-layered shield designed to neutralize threats from multiple vectors. The Aegis combat system, with its AN/SPY-1D radar, began orchestrating a complex defensive symphony that would make any potential aggressor think twice. Primary air defense assets prepared for potential engagement. SM-2 medium-range missiles in their vertical launch cells stood ready, their phased array tracking system creating an invisible but impenetrable protective bubble around the destroyer. The Naval Tactical Data System, NTDS, processed incoming track data with millisecond precision, continuously calculating potential intercept solutions and threat priorities. Environmental conditions, scattered cloud cover, moderate sea state, added complexity to the defensive calculations, requiring constant real-time adjustments to the ship's protective envelope. Each system worked in perfect synchronization, radar detection, track classification, weapons readiness, all operating with a cold mathematical precision that belied the potential for rapid escalation. The ship's defensive architecture represented a technological marvel of integrated systems. Aegis engagement logic transformed the USS Jason Dunham from a mere vessel into a floating fortress, capable of tracking and potentially neutralizing multiple aerial threats simultaneously. Electronic countermeasures (ECM) systems began preparing defensive protocols, ready to jam or confuse potential targeting systems. The no-fly bubble around the ship expanded mathematically, with each nautical mile of approach bringing the Venezuelan F-16s closer to a potential point of no return. Weapon systems remained at varying levels of readiness. SM-2 missiles could be armed within seconds, while close-in weapon systems (CIWS) maintained their last-ditch defensive posture. Chaff and decoy systems stood prepared to create electronic and physical diversions, a final layer of defensive complexity that would complicate any potential attack vector. The tactical team understood the critical balance: demonstrate absolute defensive capability without initiating kinetic action. The tension aboard the USS Jason Dunham reached a molecular pitch, with every system and crew member operating at maximum alertness. Commanders knew that the slightest miscalculation could transform a provocative flyby into a potential international crisis. Link 16 tactical data links continued to update command structures at multiple levels, ensuring that every moment of the encounter was documented and analyzed in real time. Acoustic tracking, electronic emissions monitoring, and visual observation combined to create a comprehensive threat assessment that went far beyond simple radar tracking. The ship's defensive systems represented not just technological superiority, but a carefully calibrated instrument of strategic communication. Each system, each potential response was a message, a demonstration of capability designed to deter without destroying. Helm control remained ready for evasive maneuvers, while weapons remained technically safe, but operationally prepared. Then came the moment that would define the encounter, a low pass, closer than anyone expected. The Venezuelan F-16 executed their low pass with a precision that spoke of calculated provocation, closing to a distance that transformed the maritime encounter from a potential threat to an immediate tactical challenge. The USS Jason Dunham's bridge-wing observers tracked the aircraft's approach with a mixture of professional calm and heightened alertness, electro-optical and infrared systems capturing every moment of the flyby. Flight-level forward-looking infrared FLIR cameras documented the aircraft's silhouettes with clinical detail, recording their approach vector, wingspan, and approximate weaponry configuration. The ship's helm received rapid-fire maneuvering instructions, executing controlled turns that maintained both defensive positioning and international maritime protocols. Acoustic signatures and electronic emissions told a complex story of technological provocation. The F-16s were close enough to deliver a clear message, yet maintaining just enough distance to avoid triggering an immediate defensive response. Environmental conditions, moderate sea state, scattered cloud cover, added an additional layer of complexity to the already tense maritime encounter. The ship's combat systems transformed the low pass into a comprehensive intelligence-gathering opportunity. Signals intelligence, SIGINT stations worked furiously to capture every electronic emission, mapping the F-16's communication protocols, radar signatures, and potential weapons systems readiness. Commanders utilized this moment to validate and update the ship's electronic warfare capabilities, treating the encounter as a real-time tactical assessment. Bridge-to-CIC communication channels remained open, with each system and crew member maintaining absolute situational awareness. Radar cross-section measurements, electronic signature analysis, and acoustic tracking provided a multi-dimensional picture of the approaching aircraft. The tactical action officer carefully weighed each potential response, understanding that the slightest miscalculation could transform a provocative demonstration into a potential kinetic encounter. Radio operators maintained constant monitoring of international frequencies, prepared to broadcast challenge messages or receive unexpected communication. The psychological warfare element of the encounter became increasingly apparent with each passing moment. The F-16's flight path represented more than a simple military demonstration. It was a calculated message designed to test the USS Jason Dunham's defensive posture and command decision-making processes. Electro-optical systems continued their comprehensive documentation, creating a moment-by-moment record that could be analyzed at multiple strategic levels. Helm control maintained the ship's defensive positioning, balancing maneuverability with a clear demonstration of defensive capability. The crew's training became evident in their disciplined response. Each station maintained a laser-focused awareness that translated potential threat into calculated response. Warning systems remained active but controlled, a digital heartbeat measuring the increasing tension of the maritime encounter. The ship's commanders understood the critical balance between demonstrating resolve and avoiding unnecessary escalation. As the F-16s completed their low pass, a momentary silence fell over the ship. And then the radar screens revealed something unexpected. They weren't done. There was a second approach. The flyover by Venezuelan F-16 represented far more than a simple military demonstration. It was a complex geopolitical statement emerging from the intricate landscape of U.S.-Venezuela relations and ongoing counter-narcotics operations in the Caribbean. The incident directly linked to the September 2nd strike against the suspected drug smuggling vessel, where U.S. forces had killed 11 individuals, escalating regional tensions to a critical point. Intelligence assessments suggested the flyover was a calculated response, designed to signal Venezuela's displeasure with U.S. maritime interdiction efforts while testing American resolve in contested waters. The Pentagon's communication strategy became a critical component of the ongoing diplomatic chess match, with carefully worded statements designed to communicate strength without triggering further escalation. Maritime law experts noted the complex jurisdictional nuances of the encounter, occurring in international waters, yet laden with potential for misinterpretation and unintended conflict. Information operations became a critical battleground in the aftermath of the encounter. U.S. defense officials meticulously documented the Venezuelan aircraft's approach, preparing comprehensive briefings for diplomatic channels and international forums. The technical details of the encounter, radar signatures, electronic emissions, precise approach vectors, were being compiled into a strategic assessment that would inform future engagement protocols. Signals intelligence, SIGINT teams worked to decode the broader messaging behind the provocative flyby, analyzing every electronic emission and communication protocol. The counter-narcotics mission had transformed into a complex geopolitical scenario where military presence became a form of strategic communication. Diplomatic channels buzzed with activity, parsing every detail of the encounter, weighing potential responses that would maintain deterrence without escalating to direct confrontation. The broader strategic implications extended far beyond the immediate maritime encounter. Venezuela's aging but still capable F-16 fleet represented a persistent challenge to U.S. maritime dominance in the Caribbean region. Intelligence assessments suggested the flyover was part of a larger pattern of strategic signaling, testing both U.S. defensive capabilities and political resolve. The incident highlighted the delicate balance of maritime operations, where professional military conduct existed on a razor's edge between deterrence and potential conflict. Crews aboard the USS Jason Dunham understood they were more than just a military asset. They were active participants in a complex geopolitical narrative. Washington's response would become a critical inflection point, communicating not just to Venezuela, but to other regional actors watching the encounter closely. The maritime domain had become a canvas for diplomatic and military messaging, with each movement carefully calculated to communicate strength, resolve, and strategic intent. Washington's response would escalate the stakes beyond the horizon. The U.S. military's response to the Venezuelan F-16 provocation was swift and multifaceted, transforming the maritime encounter into a comprehensive demonstration of regional force projection. Strategic planners immediately initiated a series of force flow modifications, redirecting naval and air assets to create a more robust presence in the Caribbean theater. Additional Arleigh Burke-class destroyers were repositioned, creating a visible and technologically superior maritime screen that extended U.S. defensive capabilities across critical regional waypoints. The deployment of F-35 Lightning II fighter aircraft to Puerto Rico represented a particularly significant escalation, introducing fifth-generation air capabilities that could rapidly respond to potential future provocations. Joint Terminal Attack Controllers, JTAC, began developing enhanced air-maritime coordination protocols, ensuring seamless integration of defensive and offensive capabilities across multiple operational domains. The reinforcement strategy went beyond simple military positioning, incorporating sophisticated information operations and diplomatic signaling. U.S. naval and air assets implemented enhanced deconfliction protocols, developing comprehensive communication strategies designed to minimize the risk of misunderstanding or accidental escalation. Collaborative intelligence sharing mechanisms were activated, bringing together multiple agency assets to develop a holistic understanding of regional dynamics. The F-35 deployments represented more than just a military asset. They were a strategic communication tool, demonstrating the United States' ability to rapidly project advanced technological capabilities into contested maritime environments. Extensive electronic warfare and signals intelligence capabilities were integrated into the new posture, creating a multi-layered approach that could detect, track, and potentially neutralize emerging threats with unprecedented precision and speed. The broader strategic implications of the reinforcement became increasingly clear as additional assets were positioned. Joint maritime domain awareness protocols expanded, creating a comprehensive surveillance network that extended far beyond traditional maritime boundaries. The U.S. military's response demonstrated a calculated approach to deterrence, presenting overwhelming technological superiority while maintaining a diplomatic posture that avoided direct confrontation. Advanced sensor networks, integrated across naval, air, and space-based platforms, began creating a real-time operational picture of the Caribbean region. Joint operational concepts emphasized flexibility and rapid response, with command structures designed to make split-second decisions in complex maritime environments. The deployment represented a sophisticated blend of technological superiority, strategic positioning, and diplomatic messaging. One misread switch, and the Caribbean could light up. The encounter between Venezuelan F-16 and the USS Jason Dunham exposed the razor-thin margin between diplomatic tension and potential military conflict in the modern maritime domain. Professional military personnel understand that these moments are defined not by the weapons carried, but by the disciplined restraint and sophisticated decision-making protocols that prevent escalation. The Caribbean flyover represented more than a simple military provocation. It was a complex geopolitical signal that tested the intricate balance of international maritime law, technological capabilities, and strategic communication. Legacy fighter platforms operating in proximity to advanced naval systems create an increasingly volatile operational environment where milliseconds and meters can transform a provocative demonstration into a potential kinetic engagement. The future of maritime conflict will be increasingly characterized by asymmetric challenges, where technological superiority must be balanced with nuanced diplomatic understanding. The proliferation of advanced weapon systems combined with the complex geopolitical landscapes of contested regions demands a new approach to military preparedness. Naval forces must simultaneously demonstrate capabilities while maintaining a posture of strategic restraint, using advanced sensor networks, integrated communication systems, and sophisticated rules of engagement as primary tools of deterrence. The lessons learned from encounters like the Caribbean flyover will shape future maritime doctrine, emphasizing the critical importance of professional conduct, technological integration, and measured response in preventing unintended escalation. If you believe stories like this matter and that we must understand modern war before it happens again, subscribe, like, and comment to support the channel.